On a Monday morning, we found ourselves at the kitchen table. Breakfast had just concluded, and I was leisurely enjoying my coffee while perusing the day's newspaper. My wife then spoke up. "Rob, can you set the newspaper down? We need to have a conversation." I laid the newspaper on the table and asked, "What's going on?" She answered, "I'm leaving you, Rob. I want a divorce." "Is that so?" I said, returning to the newspaper and flipping to the sports page. "I mean it, Rob." I ignored her words, and she grew angry. "Rob, stop reading and listen to me. Why bother? I haven't had anything to say other than farewell. You haven't been a contributing partner in this marriage for over a year. So go." I discarded the newspaper, stood up, and strode into my study. I picked up a notepad and pen from my desk and drew an envelope from the drawer. Back at the kitchen table, I jotted down on the notepad, "Tom, my deepest thanks truly. And bless the heavens she's going." As I was about to slip it into the envelope, a thought occurred to me. I retrieved a lottery ticket I had purchased the previous evening from my wallet, put it into the envelope, and appended to my note, "If fortune smiles on you and you win, maybe it will be enough to satisfy the unfaithful lady so she won't stray. Best of luck, pal. You'll need it." I signed off, and immensely relieved, Rob folded the note, sealed it in the envelope, inscribed the address, and extended it to Beatrice. "Hand this to him. When you see him." Her eyes widened in disbelief, and she said, "Just because you think I'm clueless doesn't make it so." On second thought, I retrieved the envelope, remarking, "I'll post it myself. I can't trust you not to sneak a peek," then toss it. "Now, why don't you start packing and exit my life for good? And since you're the one leaving, you ought to be the one to move out at once. I'm not vacating just to let your affair partner in." I stood up, transferred my coffee to a travel mug, filled it up, and headed off to work. En route, I made a stop at the bank, shut down our shared savings and checking accounts, and cleared out our safety deposit box. Subsequently, I opened new accounts exclusively in my name at a bank near my office. Arriving at work, I phoned to cancel all our shared credit cards and asked for new ones to be issued solely under my name. With these matters settled, I immersed myself in the day's workload. Post-work, I joined my executive assistant for dinner and a drink and let slip that I was single again. Stella chuckled, "Never mind my sister. I'd like to be first in line now that you're on the market." Stella was initially hired as my secretary 10 years prior, and her indispensability saw her rise to personal assistant 4 years back, and then to executive assistant 2 years ago to reflect the pay increase she rightly earned. At a Sunday barbecue I hosted, I had invited Stella, who said she couldn't come due to her sister's visit. I suggested she bring her along. Tara, her sister, was a striking, curvaceous blonde. Stella jokingly said the following day that her sister had taken a liking to me. I dismissed it with a laugh, advising her to keep such comments from Beatrice, who could get fiercely jealous. But now Stella was making her own interests known. I had never imagined she might think of me in that way. Then, in a playful tone, I offered, "Tara gets second place, and you can have the lead," but I wasn't playing boss. I'm completely serious. Give me a shot. You might change your mind when you hear what I'm about to suggest. And that's when she disclosed that she wanted out, so I've left her to figure things out with her new beau, though I'm not sure about their plans. Her new man. It appears she got involved with someone around a year and a half ago, and evidently she's concluded that a few days a week with him isn't enough. She's aiming for a full-time deal. How long have you known? I've been cognizant of it nearly as long as it's been going on. How did you find out? A friend caught her going into a hotel with someone and tipped me off. I hired a detective for a week who gave me all the details I needed. You knew for a year and a half and did nothing. Why should I get mad and mess up my life? Here, divorce means splitting everything down the middle. I'd have to sell the house, split the proceeds, and say goodbye to the pool, the jacuzzi, my wood shop, and the 3-car garage. I decided to ignore it and let her keep cooking, laundering, and cleaning. How could you stand her being around, knowing she cheated? It's surprising how fast love can sour to hate and hate to indifference. It's tough to picture someone like you going without intimacy for so long. I didn't. I still participated when she was up for it, just less often. I'd avoid her after she had been with him, but otherwise it shifted from making love to just physical acts. Do you have any idea why she did it? I'm clueless. Though he's probably not her first. Do you think she's had other affairs? I can't be sure. But there were 4 times during our marriage she behaved like she has with this guy. It's just conjecture, but I bet it was for the same reasons. If she hadn't been seen and I hadn't been told, I might have thought her recent behavior was just another phase. My hunch could be wrong, but it doesn't really matter now. Just knowing about this affair is enough to understand who she really is. What are you planning to do now? I'll wait. Wait for what? Her next step. She's cut off now. I've drained the accounts, canceled her cards, and told her to get out of our house. She wants a split, so I'm making her deal with it, especially since she can't support herself or afford a lawyer. She'll need to get money from her lover for that, but I don't know if he will. They must have talked it over before she came to me, but I'm left guessing. What you're missing is, if you're serious about us, you're thinking of a relationship with a man whose divorce timeline is up in the air. You're not seeing it straight. Rob, how so? If she files first, she has the advantage. You'll be served, and it might not go well for you. You might not see the steps you could be forced to take. You might have to move out and support her until a court says otherwise. What if she claims emotional and physical abuse and gets a restraining order, keeping you away from her and the house? You need to be proactive and take control. You should make her respond to you, not the other way around. Plus, if you start the legal action, it helps both of us. What if you wait for her to act? What if she doesn't, or her lover won't fund it? Then we risk being accused of infidelity, which she could use against you later. If she confesses to cheating and you do too, it weakens your case. By filing first, you show the marriage is over from your side, and what you do after isn't her business. Legally, you're still married until the divorce is done, and any relationship with me would technically be adultery. But no court would fault you if it started after you separated from her. So I should stay away until you or she starts the legal process. Waiting might mean waiting forever or letting her set the pace. If you act, it could begin straight away, maybe even this weekend if you talk to a lawyer quickly. You might be able to serve her notice by Thursday, setting the stage for me to strategize the forthcoming actions. Understanding the importance of being proactive, I reached out to Josh, an old friend and expert in family law. He was saddened to hear of our situation, given his acquaintance with both of us, but he agreed to help. He proposed we meet to go over and sign the necessary paperwork and discuss things further over a meal. In a decisive step, I asked for a restraining order, alleging that she had made threats against me through her boyfriend, Tom Noble. Josh was skeptical but consented to file it, reminding me of the compulsory hearing to keep the order in effect. My main objective is to make sure she vacates our house, banking on the adage that possession is 9/10 of the law, a significant edge in legal disputes, and the fact that child custody isn't a concern simplifies matters. I had already told her to leave, unsure of what I'd find when I got back. She might have left, or she might linger close by. Her exact location was unknown to me. I intended to confront her at her job since there was no chance of us reconciling, not even a remote one. See you tomorrow, I said, ending the call and turning to Stella at the table to ask, what's on the agenda for us this weekend? Her plans sounded good to me. When I got home, I discovered him at the kitchen table with papers spread out. Why haven't you left? I asked, heading to the fridge for a beer. This is still my place too, he countered. I'll stay until I sort things out. If I'm in your way, feel free to move out and bring in your new flame. That won't happen, I shot back. We need to figure out what comes next. I see no reason for that. I'm clear on my actions, and yours are of no interest to me. There are issues we must settle, Rob. Not at all, Beatrice. It's simple. You want a divorce, so you should initiate it, find a lawyer, file the paperwork, and pay all the costs. My plan is to dispute every trivial point. Here, assets are split 50/50, so we must determine who gets what. I'll drag out the proceedings to rack up your attorney fees. They don't work for free. You fancy the coffee table? I want it as well. You like the couch? Tough, Beatrice. It's precious to me, and I insist on keeping it. Why? You never cared for those things before. When I brought up divorce, you were indifferent and just told me to pack and go. That was before I had time to think, I said, locking eyes with her, taking the opportunity. I ignored your cheating the first few times because you stayed. My love for you was strong enough to stay quiet and keep you. Because you came back to me, she looked away when I mentioned those first few times, which seemed to me like an admission. I don't know why I put up with it, but I did. Maybe I believed I had upset you enough to make you lash out. You stopped the affair, and I foolishly thought it was because you realized you loved me and came back. I looked away, feeling the sting of her deceit. I mistook your fling with Noble as just another episode, but now I recognize my mistake. I've come to see you were just being unfaithful, and if it hadn't been with Noble, you'd probably find someone else in half a year. After reflecting, I realized I desired some form of retribution. Ideally, I'd like to use a belt to punish you severely, to leave you wounded and bleeding, but that would land me in jail. My only legal recourse is to make the divorce as drawn out and costly for you as I can. You're right, this is your home too, and barring physical removal or police intervention, I have to let you stay. But I don't have to like it, nor do I need to interact with you. Shift your possessions into an unoccupied bedroom and stay out of my line of vision. I downed my beverage and ascended to the room we once shared to get ready for bed. I felt I had accomplished what I set out to do. I had left her with issues to consider, which she would have to deliberate on with Noble and decide upon, necessitating time. Time that Josh could use to put the restraining order into effect. I might be wrong, she could have already sought legal counsel, and paperwork might be en route to me, but I was skeptical. The credit card cancellation showed expected balances, and the bank withdrawal was just as I had calculated. If she had engaged a lawyer, our accounts hadn't been tapped for payment. Maybe Noble was footing the bill. All that was left was to wait and hope that Josh would be able to act first. I departed the house early, before she emerged from whichever room she had chosen. I made a stop at the B&B cafe for my morning meal. While having coffee, I drafted a list of individuals to reach out to as soon as she was served. I was adamant about not being cast as the antagonist. I intended to inform everyone of the impending divorce and its causes. At the office, Stella's enthusiasm for the weekend was infectious, and I found myself looking forward to it. During lunch with Josh, he presented the papers for my signature. He assured me he would file them at the city-county building post our lunch. Do you still want her served at her job? Definitely, I confirmed, hoping it would be done by 10 the next morning. Inform me immediately once it's completed. I need the house locks changed before she has a chance to come back. After finishing at work, I arranged to take the next day off and called a locksmith, agreeing to the extra charge for quick service the next day. When I got home, I noticed Bea's car in the drive, but she presumably stayed in her room, as we didn't cross paths. The following morning, I left early again for the B&B cafe. Angie commented on Bea's absence, finding it odd to see me solo 2 days in a row. We won't be seen together any longer, we're splitting up, I told her. Angie handed me the check, revealing her personal number on the back, not the eatery's. Walking off, she left me with a sense of compassion, the second woman in as many days to show interest. Yet, I was perplexed as to why I wasn't enough for my own wife, a query I'd never voice. I lingered over coffee and browsed the morning paper, waiting for the time he usually left for work. Then I returned home and started moving Bea's things into the garage. At about 10:15, Josh called to confirm the papers had been served. I promptly rang a locksmith, and in 20 minutes he was at my place, beginning his work. Less than an hour after he'd gone, she barreled into the drive. The sight of the open garage door and the bold cardboard notice declaring your belongings are in the garage was clear to her. She paused, eyeing the sign briefly before trying the house door, only to find her keys useless. She rang the doorbell, but I ignored it, and after a while she left. Later, checking the garage, I saw she had taken some bags of her stuff. Barely 2 minutes after she drove off, my phone vibrated. It was B. Hey jerk, did you have to embarrass me in front of my coworkers? It's less than you disgracing me in front of mine. You were adamant about pushing for the divorce, and what's with this restraining order? I feared you might have Noble come after me as payback for being harsh to you. That's absurd, and you know it. I need to get into the house to collect some things. Everything you own is in the garage, BA, and I haven't changed the garage door code, so your remote should still work. If there's something you need that's not there, just list it out for me, including where it's located, and I'll move it to the garage. Quit making a scene, Rob. You're complicating things unnecessarily. Sorry, B, but giving you a little trouble hardly makes up for the years of mistreatment I've endured. Nevertheless, I have to proceed, if only to preserve my own peace of mind. Just be thankful I didn't escalate to violence. Farewell, B. I ended the call with B and began contacting everyone on my list. Many were shocked to hear about B's infidelity, though a few were not. One commented, "Caught her at last, did you?" While another admitted, "I always assumed you had a non-exclusive arrangement. She was often seen with different men, and you never said a word." I thought clearly. Those two were no longer in my circle of friends. The most surprised, who tried to persuade me I was wrong, were B's parents. I had affection for them. They had always been warm towards me, almost like the son they never had. But I was resolute in not letting B spin the tale and make it look like I was the only one at fault. If I didn't speak up, they would lose their respect for me, which was unacceptable. Having made all the necessary calls, I did a final sweep of the house for any of B's leftover belongings and then made myself some lunch. Right after I finished, the crew from Apex Security arrived. Distrusting B and convinced she would flout the restraining order to try and enter the house, I decided to have a security system installed, complete with cameras. Once the Apex team left, I debated between continuing to build the bookshelf in my woodworking shop or working on the 1934 Ford 3 window coupe restoration in the garage. The Ford project won, and I lost myself in the work. At the office on Thursday, I confirmed with Stella that we were good for the weekend. She lit up, suggesting dinner and dancing to start. Her excitement was infectious, and I couldn't help but smile. Coming home, I found things just as I had expected. B had used her garage remote to take some things and had broken into the house through the connecting door. She had trashed the kitchen, with broken dishes and glasses all over the floor, and had damaged several lamps in the living room. The security cameras had recorded everything. What surprisingly brought a smile to my face was seeing her pull all my clothes out of the closet, throw them on the floor, and then urinate on them. Why did this amuse me? Because it was all caught on tape, proving she had violated the restraining order and had intentionally caused damage. This footage would be key evidence at the restraining order hearing. I called Josh, he contacted the police, and they came, filed a report, took photos, and the next day, B was arrested at her workplace and taken to the station. There, she was processed, appeared before a judge, and was charged with violating the restraining order and intentional property damage. The judge set a hearing and released her on her own recognizance. To my surprise, the situation had escalated far more than I ever expected. My time out with Stella was pleasant, and we made plans for another date on Saturday. That went well, leading to a Sunday picnic. On Monday, at the restraining order hearing, the judge, after seeing the security footage, not only made the restraining order permanent but also ordered her to pay for the damaged items, the dry cleaning of my clothes, and the cleaning of the bedroom carpet due to the urine. She had 10 days to fulfill these orders or face jail for contempt of court. Out of a bit of spite, I chose the most expensive cleaning service for the job. Much to my chagrin, she managed to cover all the costs as mandated by the court. I had secretly wished to witness her jailed for contempt. Over the next fortnight, Stella and I met regularly, yet we kept things relatively tame, limiting our interactions to fervent kisses, mindful of my not yet dissolved marriage. Nevertheless, we were inching towards a deeper commitment. The divorce proceeded without dispute, and in half a year it reached completion. It was a typical no-fault separation, with an equitable division of assets. I arranged new financing for the house and compensated B, ultimately emerging more favorably from the division than she did. I had been secretly squirreling away funds for an around-the-world journey for our 20th anniversary, a plan unknown to her. Thus, she claimed no share of it. Likewise, she was oblivious to the last 2 deposit certificates I had tucked away in a safety deposit box, purchased with my latest bonus earnings. I claimed another modest victory. She was awarded spousal support for a couple of years, or until a new marriage, but merely at $100 weekly, not the $500 she had aimed for. This, Josh remarked, was good fortune, attributable to the judges overseeing my cases. Both judges, related as cousins and having shared their case details, had suffered through their own wives' infidelities and felt a blameless husband shouldn't bear the brunt of his wife's betrayal. They applied the law rigidly, granting no mercy beyond what was strictly necessary. B's connection with Noble wasn't particularly enduring, as she ended up back at her parents' home 7 months after the divorce. 8 months post-finalization, I found myself at the Hilton's bar, savoring a beer and a steak sandwich for my midday meal, when the seat beside me was taken. A voice then offered to purchase a beer for me. I turned to see my former wife's lover, who appeared keen to engage. "He wants a word with you," he signaled, igniting my curiosity. I nodded for him to go on, and he motioned to Agnes for a couple of beers. She brought them over, and he took a gulp of his, resting it on the bar. He stared at the bottle for a moment before starting to peel the label, creating a tiny pile in front of him. "I never meant to cause you trouble," he started, eyes still fixed on the bottle. He elaborated that she wasn't wearing her ring when they first met, so he was oblivious to her being married, and her actions didn't hint at her being someone's spouse. They encountered each other at Bud's bar, where she was with work friends. He invited her to dance, she agreed, and after he bought her a drink, she asked him to hang out with her group. They danced repeatedly, he invited her out, and she said yes. He was captivated, and within a month, they were intimate at every opportunity. At first, they resorted to motels because he had flatmates at his shared apartment. Her place was off limits. She claimed she was living with her sick mother and could only get away when someone else was available to take care of her. After he secured his own apartment, they stopped needing motels, and though their encounters were sporadic, he was head over heels in planning a proposal, even considering a house for them and her mother. However, his bubble burst when he was questioned about his involvement with a known adulteress. Poised to defend her, he was stunned to learn she was married, unfaithful to her husband, and that this wasn't her first affair. She had previously been entangled with his brother, who broke it off after discovering her marital status. When confronted with my letter, she admitted the truth after a week, painting me as an abusive, alcoholic husband, and claimed she stayed out of fear of my supposed threats. His subsequent probing unveiled her falsehoods, dousing any matrimonial plans he held. Yet, since she was adept in bed and had been ejected by me, he let her stay, provided their physical affair persisted. Everything was satisfactory until the divorce was finalized, at which point she started dropping hints about marriage, hints he quickly rebuffed. His personal history with infidelity had convinced him of the adage, once a cheater, always a cheater. He was forthright with her. They could continue their casual cohabitation, but he would entertain no thoughts of marriage. About 3 weeks after he laid out these conditions, he came home to an empty house she had left. Taking another swig of his beer, he brought up a rumor that you had known about their affair from the start. He was curious why you hadn't terminated the marriage earlier. You had justified it to yourself she was adept in the bedroom, and you were willing to turn a blind eye to her infidelity, relishing the physical aspects of your relationship and the home comforts she provided. Had she not chosen to leave and file for divorce, you might have continued to ignore the situation. He paused to take another drink and then added, "I never thought I'd say this, especially to you, but I find myself missing her presence." Finishing his beer, he stood up, reached into his pocket, and slid something across the bar towards me. "What's this?" I asked. "The lottery ticket I got from you. It was a winner. This is your cut. I waited until now to give it to you, so it wouldn't have to be divided with her in the divorce." "Take care," he said, and then he left. I looked down at what he had placed on the bar. It was a cashier's check for a considerable amount, an incredibly significant amount. "Back at the office, Gene," my assistant commented, "you look like the cat that's got the cream." "Was lunch that good?" "Lunch was more than good," I responded. "Oh yes, Gene," my assistant. Stella wasn't my employee anymore, at least not in the office. She was at home, painting what would be the nursery for our expected twins. As for the second narrative, what truly cut deep was watching her get ready for her date night. After she slipped into the enticing lingerie and stockings, I watched her spend considerable time on her makeup and hair. My wife then put on a revealing dress I hadn't seen before, completing the outfit with high heels. She had never dressed that way for me. The feeling of betrayal, jealousy, and rage simmered inside me. She was doing all this for Mark Diamond, her boss, not for me. She was making herself alluring and tempting for another man, while I was diligently working to give her a good life and a loving family. It was incomprehensible. Our intimate life was outstanding. Jessica was always thoughtful and receptive. She made me feel loved, leaving no room for doubt. After 2 decades of marriage, I was convinced I knew her well and never envisaged her being disloyal, except for that one evening last month at her company dinner when her boss, Mark Diamond, the managing partner at the law firm, paid Jessica too much attention. It was the smirk he shot me after dancing with my wife that raised my suspicions. A nagging feeling set in, which only grew when I brought it up with Jessica the next day. Her defense of him and attempt to make me seem paranoid only confirmed my doubts. The frequent late nights and missed lunches now appeared dubious, and I resolved to delve deeper. The more I contemplated, the greater my ire grew. Jessica serves as Mark's executive assistant. Mark is the managing partner at a prestigious law firm. He's the type that flaunts his affluence with luxury cars, jewelry, and an opulent lifestyle, not to mention his young, glamorous wife, Stella, a striking 30-year-old he married following his divorce from his first wife of 2 decades. Mark has a penchant for demeaning others, and I remember at a social event how he mocked my line of work. I'm in the business of selling nuts and bolts to large retail chains. It's not glamorous, but it nets over $200,000 annually, affording a comfortable life for my family. I succeeded in providing Jessica with all her wants and managed to cover our daughter Sarah's college expenses. She's now in her sophomore year. We also live in a welcoming neighborhood with great neighbors and a pleasant lifestyle. True, I wasn't raking in wealth like Mark, but we felt satisfied, or at least I believe so. Yet, the evening he decided to ridicule my job in front of my wife and peers angered me, not solely due to his conceited attitude, but also because of Jessica's defense of him after I felt humiliated in front of her and the others. So Johnny, how's the nuts and bolts industry? I'm sure you get screwed over plenty, ha ha ha. Must be a blast dealing with Home Depot all the time. Seeing Jessica giggle made my blood boil, and I left abruptly without a word. To her credit, Jessica came to me and asked why I was upset. After I explained, she tried to minimize the situation, saying, "Oh honey, he's just kidding around. He likes to have a laugh. Don't take it so personally. Let's go back. He's really a decent guy." Despite my hesitations, I stayed for the rest of the evening. In hindsight, I realize I may have ignored some telltale signs. Now, it's evident I overlooked possible warning signs. Certainly, I'm not one to be easily fooled, and I won't keep quiet. I understand why people are drawn to Mark. He's the commanding, tall, good-looking man, the affluent partner of the firm, the kind of person everyone wants to be seen with. And Jessica was his top advocate at work, his valued and trusted aide. The puzzle was starting to fit together. It didn't matter that he had a beautiful younger wife. For a man like Mark, he wanted it all, and capturing another man's wife was clearly part of his plan. In the following week, I quickly moved to find out whether my hunches were without merit or if my instincts were on point. Having acquired 6 audio recorders and 5 video cameras, I set my scheme into motion. The first video camera was fixed inside the bedroom's smoke detector, while the next 2 ensured extensive coverage from different angles. The other cameras were strategically placed in the master bathroom and living room. All cameras featured live streaming capabilities, supported up to 8K resolution, and were wirelessly connected to a specially prepared computer in the attic, all controllable through a mobile app. The audio devices were equally cunning. One was hidden in a pen by the kitchen phone, another in her car, and standard recorders in her 3 preferred purses and 1 behind our bed. This arrangement meant I was ready to document at least 90% of her conversations and any happenings within our home. I felt uneasy about the week ahead as I got ready for my sales trips. As always, Jessica was tender, ensuring our last evening together was special, just as she did before each of my departures. She smothered me with kisses and sweet nothings, professing her love and longing for me. Her warmth and tenderness were qualities I had always cherished, and she consistently delivered. It was a splendid evening that reaffirmed our bond and love, almost convincing me of her loyalty and nearly causing me to call off my investigative plans. Yet, I adhered to my original scheme and embarked on my trip, which would last 2 nights this time, providing her with sufficient time for any potential misdeeds. We said our goodbyes, and by 6 p.m., I was on my way to the hotel. The drive allowed me to reflect on the last 6 months, scrutinizing for any irregularities. Other than 2 instances involving her boss, his smug look, and his disparaging comment, there were no red flags. A sense of relief washed over me as I realized my suspicions were probably just baseless fears and paranoia. Upon my arrival at the hotel, I settled into my room and booted up my laptop while unwinding on the spacious bed. It took a short while, and I browsed through my work emails before accessing the link to my home network to review the last few hours of footage. I was convinced it would reveal nothing, yet I was keen to test the remote functionality. I fast-forwarded the playback to triple speed until my wife appeared in our bedroom, at which point I resumed normal speed to observe my beautiful wife engaged in a phone call. To my surprise, she was on a call with Mark barely an hour after my departure. The video camera captured her on the bed, caressing herself while speaking to her boss. I could only listen to her side of the dialogue with Mark as I watched Hello Love. He's left and I'm all alone. Yes, 2 nights this time. When will you be here? Doesn't your wife get suspicious? Oh wow, that's fantastic. Can you spend the night? I'm longing to wake up beside you. Oh yes. I'm all yours, love. And yes, you can have me completely. What's your ETA? All right, see you soon. I love you, darling. I was in shock. We had just experienced the deepest connection, and she had professed her love for me. Yet here she was, an hour later, arranging for him to spend the night. Who was this woman? How could she so passionately declare her love for me and then so quickly betray me? For the following hour, I observed my wife get ready for her guest, watching her shower, slip into seductive lingerie, don high heels, apply makeup, and spend half an hour on her hair. The experience was excruciating yet strangely exciting. I had always recognized her beauty, but dressed like this, she became an enchantress. The problem was she had never put in this kind of effort for me. A mix of anger and jealousy boiled inside me as I realized she was doing all this for Mark, not for her devoted husband. It was a tough pill to swallow. Was Mark really coming over tonight, or was this all just a big misunderstanding? That question was swiftly resolved when the doorbell rang, and Mark stepped into my house, greeting Jessica with a fervent kiss, all captured by the camera. I had a close-up of their embrace, which made me feel nauseated for the first time that night. Wow, darling, you look stunning in that outfit. I can hardly wait to peel it off you and spend the night together, he remarked, beaming at her admiringly. Their exchange filled me with anger, but that feeling morphed into deep sorrow when I saw her lead him by the hand to our bedroom. My anguish deepened as I watched her strip him, while he stood there with that self-satisfied grin. He was a man with a muscular frame, toned abs, and an imposing stature. I was torn by jealousy, fury, and resentment, yet I couldn't help but feel a reluctant admiration for him. Jessica was passionate, dropping to her knees and pleasuring him orally, bringing him to completion and then consuming it. I was taken aback. She had always dismissed the idea with me, claiming it disgusted her and it would never happen. Yet, there she was, doing it willingly for him within moments of privacy. My mind reeled with anger and contempt for this man who was invading my life. After feeling sick once more, I forced myself to watch and listen to their intimacy over the next hour. It was evident that my marriage was dissolving, and I struggled not to let it get to me, but it was their post-intimacy conversation that truly cut the deepest. He started the conversation as they lay entwined. Thus, the little man is out for a couple of nights. Wonderful. You'll be entirely mine for the next 2 days. I'm ecstatic you can spend the night, love. You're aware I've been yearning to wake up with you for so long. I cherish our time together, Mark. Yes, I relish having you to myself all night while your husband is out working. What a fool he is. Please, Mark, be gentle. I do love him, and he's a good person. Then why do you engage with me intimately, Mark? You're the most handsome man I've ever met, and I love the way you treat me, but we're both married, and we need to savor the time we have. Honestly, I love the way you make me feel deep down. I understand. I love you too, but what I truly love is how you make me feel loved and important. You give me more tenderness and attention than my wife or any other woman ever has. For me, it goes beyond the physical. I just love the way you make me feel. Jessica. That was the part that stung because the love he spoke of was meant to be exclusive to me, but now I saw she was sharing that affection with someone else. I kept watching them snuggle, exchange kisses, and converse. Does your husband fulfill you the way I do, Jessica? He's a great lover, but no, not like you do. You elicit feelings in me that are indescribable. I sat there, feeling sorrowful, wounded, with a deep sense of loss. I shut the laptop, unable to stomach any more of this betrayal in my own home and bed. After hours of sleeplessness and controlling my fury, I was aware that a lot of hurt and retribution lay ahead. Upon my return, everything seemed typical, full of love and respect, as if nothing had happened. Jessica welcomed me with a tight embrace and numerous kisses, behaving as if my absence had been inconsequential. Instead of the affection I once had for her, I now felt repulsion and shrank from her kiss. I feigned normalcy as best as I could, maintaining a facade. I secured all the recordings and videos, uploaded them to the cloud, and stored them safely on my computer. Over the next fortnight, I made sure to account for every second of Jessica's time with me. I kept her busy, allowing no opportunity for them to have a quick tryst or any late-night romance. She even asked about my upcoming travel plans, evidently eager for my departure. And I caught a snippet of their conversation during her morning commute. When is your husband leaving town next? I crave your love, not certain, but I'll find out. It should be soon, love. With this knowledge, I arranged a one-night trip to guarantee his visit during my absence. The plan was underway. That evening, while we watched a film on TV, my unfaithful wife inquired, "Darling, when is your next trip?" I suppressed my rage and answered, "Sweetheart, are you eager to send me away? Do you have a clandestine lover who comes by when I'm gone?" I chuckled, feigning humor. She didn't miss a beat. Her face showed no guilt. "Don't be silly. I adore having you around. I'm just hopeful you won't have to travel much. And I was curious if your trips had lessened." "No, unfortunately, love, my work still involves travel. Yes, next Tuesday, I have an overnight business trip, and I'll return sometime on Wednesday," I replied convincingly. "I despise it when you're gone. I wish you didn't have to. I miss you terribly when you're away." She then approached, embraced me, kissed me fervently, and made me feel more cherished than words can express. Realizing she was bestowing the same affection on another man made me want to yell and cast her aside, but I kept my composure, continuing as if all was normal, aware that the following week would bring my scheme to fruition. On Tuesday, I prepared for my journey, and Jessica and I shared what would be our final intimate moment. After tonight, it would be the end of us. She graced me with a soft kiss before I left that night, and I wondered if she could see the sorrow in my eyes as I looked at her for what I knew would be the last time. I detected a flicker of something change in her demeanor, yet her inner thoughts remained a mystery to me. Instead of heading out of town, I chose to circle back to my office and park my car. I settled back into my desk to delve into some after-hours work, a not-so-uncommon occurrence, and the few colleagues still there didn't find my 7:30 p.m. return unusual. The security system alerted me when Mark entered my home, bestowing yet another loving kiss on my soon-to-be former wife. It was time for action. I turned off the camera using my smartphone app and left my phone at my desk to prevent GPS tracking while I was out. I slipped out of the office quietly, made my way to my car, and took out the foldable electric bike from the trunk. Its silent motor allowed for a swift 30 mph pace and a range of 50 miles. With a black hoodie pulled over my head and unnoticed by anyone, I started the 12-mile ride back home. The bike's design prioritized stealth, silence, and low visibility, which let me get to my house in under 20 minutes without drawing attention. I parked behind the house and entered through the sliding door I had left unlocked. Inside, I paused, listening and making sure I wasn't detected, tuning into the sounds coming from the bedroom. Once I was sure they were distracted and my presence was undetected, I moved to the closet to retrieve the short-barreled shotgun and aluminum bat I had hidden there. I carried them close to the bedroom, placing the shotgun against the wall outside and clutching the bat as I quietly opened the door to the next room. Their loud activity drowned out any noise from my entry, and they were unaware of my silhouette as I approached the bed where my wife was beneath him, her legs wrapped around his strong body as he moved inside her, the woman who had promised herself to me. I didn't hesitate to swing the bat with force at the side of his skull. The sound of metal colliding with bone and the heavy thud of his 250-pound body hitting the floor were stark contrasts. As he crumpled down, I grabbed the shotgun and flooded the room with light. Jessica, now alert and terrified, gasped in shock, begging for the nightmare to be false. "Why are you here? You're supposed to be gone," she exclaimed. "The better question is why you're with another man in our bed." "Now, be quiet and pay attention," I snapped back. The man, regaining consciousness and bleeding from the bat's blow, slowly grasped the severity of the situation. Why, he muttered, confused by the sudden violence. "You're in my bed with my wife, and you're surprised by my actions." I challenged. His fear escalated as he saw the gun pointed at him. "What are you going to do?" he asked, his voice trembling with fear. "Scared that the betrayed husband might strike. I know about your affair, and tonight's about settling scores. You're going to pay with your life, Mark." I threatened. I declared that his pursuit of momentary pleasure would cost him everything. "If you kill me, you'll rot in jail," he protested. "Dismiss that thought. Our lives end tonight. How does that suit you?" I menaced, aiming to instill terror in them. While I had no real intention to kill, witnessing their fear was a perverse kind of satisfaction. I was deliberately heightening the tension, scaring them both. Jessica was now sobbing, huddled up, trying to cover her nakedness with the bedsheet. "Darling, please think this through. I love you, I really do. Put the gun down and let's discuss this," she pleaded. With a sinister grin, I aimed the gun at her and ordered, "Silence. You chose to be with someone else, to betray our vows. Whatever happens, tonight is on you. Look at your pathetic lover. He's so scared he's soiled himself. You're just a scared little boy, not a man. Maybe you should be in diapers," I taunted, intentionally sounding unhinged, making it clear to them that I was off kilter. They knew they were in real danger and had to calm me down or face serious harm. The shotgun was loaded with specialized ammunition, a mix of 25% salt and 75% oleoresin capsicum, the component in pepper spray. My intention was not to take life but to deliver severe pain and potentially inflict a lasting impairment. I had no wish to find myself behind bars and had no plans to take any lives that night. Yet my goal was to instill a terror so profound that it would be unforgettable, to ensure they would always remember this event. When Big Mark recovered from the initial shock of the hit to his skull, he gathered his bravery and tried to overpower me, hoping to take my weapon. I was ready for such a move. As he lunged, he exposed himself, and I took the chance to shoot at his ample leg and groin area. The blast was thunderous, overshadowing even his piercing screams. The oleoresin capsicum filled the air, mingling with the blood gushing from his groin wound. His vision blurred and his breath came in painful coughs. The pain was beyond anything he'd ever experienced. The damage inflicted by the close-range shot with non-lethal ammo was more than I had anticipated. The shot had ripped through his flesh, embedding the pepper-infused substance into his skin, causing what I imagined must have been agonizing pain. As he writhed in pain and bled out, I laid out what was to happen next. I gave the big man a prod to ensure he was listening, never taking my eyes off my soon-to-be ex-wife. "Pay attention, you fool, and you too, my cheating spouse. I'm about to leave, and you will take this buffoon to the hospital before he bleeds out. You will not call for an ambulance, but will personally drive him there. You will keep quiet about the circumstances and my involvement. You will pretend I knew nothing of your affair. If either of you even hints that I was aware or involved, or of your betrayal, then the recordings, audio, and images I've collected will be sent to his wife and your colleagues at the firm. A link to a website I've set up, displaying over 2 hours of your escapades, will be circulated among everyone we know. I don't care what lies you tell the authorities, but you will leave my name out of it and maintain my ignorance of the affair. My future ex-wife will keep her job. She'll need it after our divorce. If you come after me or if she fights the divorce, I'll release everything. At that point, the fallout won't matter to me, as I'll bring everything to light, even if it means implicating myself. You both deceived me, and now it's time for you to deal with the aftermath. Make sure he gets medical attention swiftly, and don't forget my warning." I left the same way I came in, securing the lock and shutting the door behind me. I packed the bat and shotgun into a bat bag and hoisted it onto my shoulder. I departed quietly and unseen from the area. On my way back to the office, I disposed of the bat and shotgun in different parts of the river. Then, I removed the surgical gloves I was wearing and discarded them before continuing on. When I got back to the office, I stowed the bike in the trunk and was back at my desk by 9. After saying goodbye to some of the EAT staff still there, I left for my planned trip. To all appearances, my car hadn't moved, and I had been at my desk the entire time. Should they ever accuse me, it would be their word against mine, with no evidence to back them up. When I got home the next day, the fallout had already begun. Mark had to undergo reconstructive surgery on his penis. Unfortunately, the blast had been so close that it obliterated his testicles and damaged his penis. The surgeons worked to salvage what remained of his genitalia, leaving him with less than 4 inches of scarred flesh. They also had to shave his head to treat the concussion with 18 stitches from the bat's blow. He claimed the last thing he remembered was going to his assistant's house with some documents before waking up in the hospital. He told the police that he couldn't remember seeing anyone or being hit. He kept quiet, knowing that I could ruin him and his career. Jessica was shaken and kept quiet about the incident. All she would say is that she heard a gunshot and, when she went outside, she found Mark wounded and chose to drive him to the hospital, thinking it was too critical to wait for an ambulance. Neither could explain why he was without clothes, but both stuck to their stories. However, Mark's spouse was doubtful, and this would soon become a major problem for Mark. I spent the afternoon taking apart the surveillance equipment, uploaded everything to a secure cloud server, and got rid of the gadgets. Any remaining proof of my knowledge of their affair was now securely stored online, out of reach from others. Jessica came by around 6 p.m. and found me in the lounge, sipping on a bottle of my best whiskey. I stayed quiet as she sat down across from me on the couch. She looked upset and regretful, a side of her I rarely saw, momentarily stirring my compassion. With tears in her eyes, she fell apart, trying to explain her behavior. "Johnny, I know how awful what you saw is, but you need to understand that my feelings for him weren't real. No matter how it looked and the things I said, which must have hurt you, remember who I am. Beyond physical closeness, I seek a meaningful connection. Those words were spoken with you in my heart. It was all for you, dear. Whenever you were gone, the loneliness was too much, and Mark was just there." Yes, it became physical, but it was only physical. You have to believe me, I was completely taken aback by her weak excuse, which basically said she was intimate with him while thinking of me. Doubt and questions overwhelmed me. "Jessica, I've listened to your explanation, but the sight of you with him will never leave my mind. Even though you say your love was meant for me, I can't get past it. It's over, Jessica. 20 years of joy ended because of your dishonest boss and your infidelity. We'll have to live with the fallout of your actions for the rest of our lives. Your present of pain and misery to me is something I'll value forever," I said with irony. "What do we do now?" she asked, tears rolling down her face. "You and I are done. I'll never understand how you could do what you did to me or why. I'll bear that weight forever. There's no way I can forgive what you did. But I'll keep my promise and not expose your infidelity. Sarah and your folks won't know they have a traitor for a mother and daughter. I'll leave the reason for our divorce up to you, but be careful not to paint me as the bad guy. If you do, it won't go well for you, as I'll make. Sure, everyone knows you're just an unfaithful cheater. The house will go on the market, and you'll need to find another place to stay in the meantime, because you're the one who ruined everything. You need to go, I'm not just suggesting. Let me know where to send the divorce papers. Sign them and don't fight the divorce, or it'll just bring more trouble for you and your lover." Crying into her hands, she tried to talk. "He's not my lover, and I don't love him. Can't we try to work things out? Is there anything we can do? I know it's hopeless after what I've done, but I can't stand to lose you, and I'll do anything to keep us together. I never meant for any of this to happen. Please don't leave me." You see, Jessica, if it had just been a physical thing, perhaps we could have worked through it with therapy or a short time apart. But it all fell apart the moment I saw you do something with him that you'd never do with me. It broke me to hear you promise him things you'd never given me. Yes, I was listening. And when you vowed to do things for him that you'd never done for me, that alone destroyed any chance of us getting back together. But what really killed my love for you was seeing you share what was supposed to be hours alone with him. The words you said to him tore us apart and erased all my feelings for you. I can't understand how you not only gave him your body but also the love and closeness we were supposed to have just between us. Because of that, I can never take you back or believe in your love again. No, I'll never forget or forgive your unfaithfulness, and I don't ever want to see or talk to you again. After the divorce is done, you'll be completely out of my life. And as for that man, if he ever comes near me, I'll go after both of you without thinking twice or giving a warning. After she begged for forgiveness for hours, she left the next morning to stay with her parents until the house was sold. In the following days, the police tried to get me to confess to being involved. I got a lawyer, and we told them that unless they had real evidence against me, I wouldn't answer any more questions without a court order. Since they had no proof and I had an alibi, they backed off eventually. The case was finally written off as a random robbery and attack. Jessica and her family tried to get me to change my mind, saying she loved me and couldn't live without me, asking for forgiveness and suggesting therapy, but it was no use. I ignored their calls and visits, changed my phone number, and cut off all contact with them. Yes, leaving her was painful, and every moment was filled with hurt, but the thought of her giving her love to someone else was a barrier I couldn't get over. Jessica, now 42 and a single mother, lived on what she earned in a small one-bedroom apartment. The easy life she once had was gone. Her child and family eventually figured everything out and were unhappy with Jessica and her choices. They blamed her for the failed marriage. Jessica was alone now because Mark was trying to fix his own marriage. Mark was mean to her at work and blamed her for his health and marriage problems. He couldn't work with her and moved her to a desk job while keeping her pay the same. Her new job was dull and unfulfilling, taking away her chance to work closely with one of the firm's partners. Gossip went around that she was one of Mark's exes, and people treated her that way. Now, with a job she hated and no hope for moving up, without friends, a husband, and a family that blamed her. For the breakup, she started to fall into a deep sadness. She cried alone every night, missing Johnny with all her heart. Her heart hurt all the time, filled with thoughts of what she had done and what she had lost. Sarah tried to help her mom, but it looked like there was no way to get better, watching as she got thinner. Jessica didn't eat right and drank too much every night, not taking care of herself because she thought there was no point without Johnny. When Sarah asked her dad for advice, he felt sorry for her but couldn't get past the betrayal, so he never got back in touch with Jessica. Stella got back at Mark and made his life very hard. She made him move into a guest room, and he paid dearly for his cheating. Stella started seeing several younger men but kept Mark around to pay the bills. She agreed to be his companion for work events and meetings, appearing as his partner, but they lived separate lives. Mark was fated to never have intimate relations or feel love again, bearing the consequences of his choice to pursue another spouse. He was able to keep his genitalia, albeit much smaller, and unluckily for him, he lost all feeling due to nerve injury. He also lost both testicles after they were damaged by a bullet that night. His bitterness towards me was fierce, and he wanted to cause me serious trouble, but nothing major happened for a good while. Later in the year, after going out for drinks with workmates, I was attacked outside the bar until my pals stepped in. The attackers ran off before the police got there, and I ended up in the hospital for 2 days with broken ribs and 20 stitches. I was sure they meant to end my life, and if not for my friends, they might have. It was clear this was Mark's doing, and it didn't surprise me. 6 weeks after getting better, I rang up Mark's office. "Mr. Diamond, if you please," I said to his assistant. "I'm sorry. He's in a meeting. May I pass on a message?" "Yes. Tell him to meet me at 1 p.m. this Friday at the French Deli over the road." "I'm sorry, sir. I don't arrange Mr. Diamond's meetings. Just give him this note: 1 p.m. Friday, French Deli. Come by yourself." Johnny handed it to him, "and he'll get it thanks come Friday." I was at a table near the door when Mark walked in alone. He saw me and came over. "Take a seat," I directed. "What do you want?" he snapped. I ignored his anger and said, "Thanks for showing up. Your guys did a good job on me, but sadly for you, they didn't finish it." You ignored my warning about not coming after me or my kin, so now you've forced my hand." I gave him a folded piece of paper and said, "This is a link to a site made just for you. Don't try to shut it down. It's based in Syria with 3 backups in different places, so you can't track it. Even if you find the main site, you won't find the rest. What I'm saying is, you're stuck, and I've got the upper hand. That's the web address. Look at it when you're back at your desk." I hid Jessica's face because she doesn't deserve the fallout from your mistakes. She's suffered enough. Now, after you see the site, think about how your business, your wife, your kids, friends, and family will feel when they find out about the 2 hours of graphic videos I plan to post on well-known adult sites, with your name, job, home, and contact info. You were getting more and more angry. Listen, you've already wrecked my life, and I'll never be the same in private. Just stop this, or I swear. You'll disappear. That's exactly why we're here today, Mr. Diamond. My goal is to end this. You took the most important thing in my life, my wife. You broke our 20-year marriage, and I can't let you get away with it. I'm ready to take the risk of disappearing, as you say, but I'm set on getting even for what your guys did to me, all right? Relax. What do you want to make all this go away? 2 things, and I won't budge. You'll stop all revenge against me and anyone I know, including Jessica. And you'll put $1 million in this account by end of business Friday. If the money's not there by Friday at 9 p.m., I'll act against you. I'm conscious of your wealth, and I'm also aware of the potential earnings from a legal battle, so view this small amount I'm asking for as a gesture of leniency if I agree. How can I be sure you won't come after me anyway? You can't be certain. However, you need to trust my word as a gentleman. I'll tell you this much: if you don't follow through, by Saturday morning, this website will become infamous. By the way, do you recall how I found out about your affair with my spouse? No, it's puzzled me. It was your self-satisfied grin after that dance with my wife at your recent company event. That smug look set off my suspicions, and from there I unraveled your secret and the cause of your eventual ruin. You've been one of the most conceited people I've met, and I hope you suffer endlessly for the damage you've caused my happy marriage. The funds were transferred. The house was sold, and the proceeds split. Jessica had enough money to live comfortably as long as she continued working or found a new partner. Mark kept her on the job per our agreement, but they kept their interactions strictly business. Jessica didn't remarry, rarely dated, and bore the weight of her betrayal towards both men. She lost her marriage and the love of the man she wanted to grow old with, ending up alone and despondent. She died before reaching 50, a woman full of heartache and regret. Only her daughter, Sarah, was there for the scattering of her ashes. Johnny continued his career for a few more years before retiring to a peaceful coastal town. He married a compassionate woman who brought him emotional and physical contentment, but he never found someone who could fill the special place Jessica had in his heart. They stopped communicating, and he only heard about her through Sarah, who he adored. They talked daily and remained close. Yet Sarah rarely spoke of her mother, aware of her father's lasting love and wishing not to reopen his wounds. Her death saddened him, but also brought closure to the deep pain he had kept hidden. Sitting in a cafe this morning, I reflected on a sign and the path my life has taken. We think we're after physical touch, but what we really seek is emotional connection, to be touched, seen, valued, to share joy with another, to feel protected, to be truly seen. That's the kind of bond we long for. Dear listeners, I invite you to share your thoughts in the comments below, and please remember to like, share, and subscribe.